Technique number 8 in the Kenpo Karate for Christ 4th grade curriculum is bow compulsion. This is our lock technique, and the lock we're caught in is one called the Z-lock. Z-lock is kind of like an inward wrist lock. It's about halfway through the wrist lock, and then the direction of force changes on this. A very, very effective way to bring somebody down. I actually happen to have right now on my arm been wearing a brace for a couple weeks, and it's because of getting caught in a Z-lock. And then the response you have to have when you're caught in a Z-lock is that it's going to bring you down. Incidentally, that's where the name of this technique comes from, bow of compulsion. As they put you in the Z-lock, the way to start to get to the head of the force is you've got to get below it. You've got to drop down. And even if you don't know that, when someone catches you in it, you will drop down onto your knees. So the way the hold works is that someone is starting an inward wrist lock, right, which turns on this rotation. Fingers come high, right? They would be pushing the fingers towards you. But they only turn it halfway. So it only turns it to where your pinky finger is high. And then that rotation doesn't continue to go this way. It starts to come in towards you. So at this point, the pinky finger comes up. So rather than continuing to turn this way, the arm is turning into you, right? The fingers are coming up towards your nose that way, towards your face. And what that does is not just binding the wrist, but it also starts to cross the bones there in the forearm, especially if the arm is bent. And the way the Z-lock works generally is as they start to go into the inward wrist lock here, one of the things, your elbow just naturally kind of rides up high. Well, if you can keep your elbow above your wrist, there's ways to get out of that. One of the principles of getting a good inward wrist lock is that you want the hand to be above the elbow as you drive down. And then the elbow is above the shoulder, and so forth and so on, all the way down, is that from that hand is kind of the highest point in order to set a good inward wrist lock. Well, if someone starts to bend their elbow a little bit and raise their elbow up, right, provided that's not creating more pressure in the wrist here, deflection that would break the wrist. But this is one of the ways people can start to fold out of an inward wrist lock. So what can happen is they can release with one hand and hold with one hand. Just grabbing with one hand, yours, holding it in this kind of vertical position. The other hand can check the elbow so it can't come any higher. And they can change that rotation straight into you, and that's how the Z-lock is performed, right? And in my case, it wasn't even on this kind of horizontal plane. It was on a vertical plane where I had just gone and grabbed in for like a wrestling type of position here on the jacket, and my buddy just pinned my arm, pinned here at the elbow too, and simply started to twist one direction. So it turned my arm in the same manner that the Z-lock does. My elbow was pinned down low, and it dropped me to my knees, and I just couldn't drop fast enough, right? And so there's now, whatever, it's a little stiff. So be careful with this, but the Z-lock's a very powerful, very quick hold, and the response to that makes you drop down below. So your right arm's caught in this hold here. They've got your, with their right hand here, they're holding yours, right? And with their left hand, they've got your control of the elbow, and they're bringing those fingers up towards your nose, and it's making you want to drop down. So that's what we're going to do. That's where our bow comes from, right? We're bowing down, and we are compelled to bow by the pain compliance, right? If we don't, then the pressure is going to increase on the wrist, and ultimately you're going to have broken arm, in one place or the other, either the forearm or in the wrist. So we drop down ahead of that pressure. Now, as you do that, I want to get my elbow low on this one, right? Dropping it down, and at the same time try and turn my wrist. The other hand's going to back up right where they're grabbing so that I can rotate my wrist, turning my arm into a vertical plane. And as you drop low under that, at the same time step forward with a palm strike here. Now your target on this won't be their chin because you're dropping down as you do it. You'll be hitting them in the sternum. That's not going to do a lot of damage. Point isn't to damage them with this palm strike, right? I'm not trying to force push them across the room. But I am trying to get out of that hold, and it will work for that. How they're holding that arm, it'll free the hand, boom, and even though the hit isn't much, the point is to get out of that Z-lock there. So, they're putting you in the pin, I pin the other hand, step forward and palm strike. That should free you. and immediately pull that arm free. As it comes back, it's going to return with an uppercut to the stomach. The striking, the follow-up to this, the counter-attack, is the easy part to this. The hard part is getting out of the hole. Step, boom, drop the elbow, palm strike, slip out, come back with that uppercut. I'm going to drop down to a wide kneel, and I'm doing a back fist, hammering back fist to the inside of his left knee. Boom. Which immediately I'm going to bounce off of and come back with an inward hook punch. Strong inward hook, turn into a close kneel, dropping low, and hook into the inside of his other knee, into his right knee. So it drops and goes back fist to the knee, turn hook to the opposite knee. You're going to hit boom, boom, inside of both knees. And then once I do, my full cover out is going to take me to the back diagonal or back to the 730 line. So again, that's valve compulsion. You're caught here. I step palm strike to get my hand out, pull it free. Uppercut, drop down. Back fist, right? That's going into a wide kneel, then close kneel as you pivot. Right, hammering with that hook punch. Be sure the hand is in a good 90-degree bend here so that the wrist is behind the fist and the elbow is behind the wrist. And hook right through that knee and then full cover out towards 730. One more time, that's valve compulsion.